Welcome back to the House of Ravenbrook. I'm Eric Marquette, and as always I'm joined by the ever-spirited Ruby Sturt. Today we're diving into something that's at the very heart of the Ravenbrook tradition, awakening beyond fear, and what it really means to move toward unity in a world that, let's be honest, often feels pretty divided.
G'day everyone, I'm Ruby, and yeah, Eric, you're spot on. It's wild how much division is just baked into our history, right? Like, you look back and it's all us versus them, tribes, empires, religions, you name it. And it's not just ancient history either. We're still living with the fallout of all that every day.
Absolutely. I mean, if you look at the roots of human conflict, so much of it comes down to fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of difference, fear of losing what we have. And those fears have been, well, cultivated, haven't they? By political systems, by religious dogma, by the stories we're told about who we are and who we're not.
Yeah, and it's not just about big wars or politics. It's in the little things too, like the way we're taught to see people as other if they don't fit into our group. I remember reading about how even ancient societies used rituals and myths to make sense of stuff they couldn't control, but it also set up this idea that our way is the only way. That's a recipe for division if I've ever seen one.
Exactly. And the Ravenbrook tradition, at its core, is about transcending those artificial boundaries. It's about recognizing the divinity in every person, not just the people who look or think like us. I actually had this experience a few years ago. I was invited to a dialogue circle, and it was one of those rare moments where people from all sorts of backgrounds came together. There were folks from different faiths, different political views, even people who'd been on opposite sides of local conflicts. And after a couple of hours, we realised we all wanted the same things: safety, meaning, connection. It was honestly transformative. It made me realise how much common ground there is if we're willing to look for it.
That's so good. And it's funny because when you actually sit down and listen to someone's story, it's hard to keep seeing them as the enemy. I mean, as we talked about in our Love Over Fear episode, hate and prejudice are learned. They're not our natural state. But unlearning them, that takes some guts and a lot of curiosity.
Right, and it's not about pretending the past didn't happen. The scars of history are real. But, as the Unity Manifesto puts it, we're not bound by those mistakes. We can choose a different path, a path that leads to unity, understanding, and peace. It's a journey that starts with self-reflection and a willingness to see beyond our differences.
And that's the call, isn't it? To wake up, to see the world with new eyes, and to embrace the inherent divinity in ourselves and each other. It's not easy, but it's the only way forward if we want a world that's actually worth living in. So let's talk about fear, because honestly, it's everywhere. And it's not just a personal thing, it's systemic. Like, fear's been used by religious and political systems forever to keep people in line. Do this or else, believe this or you're out. It's exhausting, and it's so easy to get sucked into it, especially when you're raised in it.
Yeah, and it's not just about control, is it? It's about division. If you can get people afraid of each other, you can keep them from working together. That's been the playbook for centuries. But the thing is, fear isn't always rational. It's often learned, and it can be unlearned. That's where spiritual traditions can either make things worse or help us heal. Some traditions double down on fear, but others, like Ravenbrook, are about breaking that spell.
Totally. And, I grew up in a pretty conservative environment. There were a lot of rules, a lot of don'ts, and a lot of fear about what would happen if you stepped out of line. For ages, I just accepted it. But then I started asking questions, like, why do we believe this? Who benefits from me being afraid? And honestly, it was terrifying at first. I was scared of being wrong, of being rejected, of losing my place. But the more I questioned, the more I realized that a lot of those fears weren't even mine. They were handed down like old clothes that never really fit.
That's so relatable. And it's not just about questioning for the sake of it. It's about finding liberation in curiosity and compassion. When you start listening, really listening, to people who are different from you, it's hard to keep holding on to those old fears. It's like the more you know, the less you fear. No.
Exactly. And there are actual practices that help with this. Active listening, for one, like really putting your own agenda aside and hearing someone out. Nonviolent communication is another, focusing on needs and feelings instead of blame. And mindfulness too. Just noticing when fear pops up and asking, is this real or is this just an old story?
And it's not just personal, is it? When we do this work collectively, when we create spaces for dialogue, for honest conversation, we start to break the cycle. We start to see that, actually, most people want the same things. As we discussed in Roots and Reconnection, reconnecting with our own intuition and ancestral wisdom can help us see through the noise and find our own truth, rather than just absorbing what we're told to fear.
Yeah, and it's ongoing. I still catch myself falling into old patterns sometimes. But now, instead of beating myself up, I try to get curious. Like, where did that come from? Is it serving me? And most of the time, it's not. So I let it go, or at least loosen my grip a bit. It's a process, but it's so worth it.
And that's the heart of it, isn't it? Overcoming fear isn't about pretending it doesn't exist. It's about facing it, questioning it, and choosing something better. Compassion, understanding, and ultimately unity. So let's talk about what it actually looks like to move forward. Because it's one thing to talk about unity and compassion, but how do we actually build a world that reflects those values? That's where leadership comes in, and not just any leadership, but the kind that's rooted in moral integrity and shared purpose. Richard Ravenbrook is a great example of this. He wasn't born a visionary. He was just a regular person who started asking hard questions and listening deeply. And that's what made him a leader people wanted to follow.
Yeah, and what I love about Ravenbrook's story is that he didn't just talk the talk, he actually lived it. He started small, volunteering, joining environmental groups, having tough conversations. And then he brought people together, not by telling them what to think, but by inviting them to share their own experiences and ideas. That's real leadership. It's not about being the loudest voice in the room. It's about creating space for everyone to be heard.
Exactly. And it's not just about one person either. It's about building systems that support unity, like holistic education that values critical thinking, creativity, and emotional intelligence. It's about using technology ethically to connect people and solve real problems, not just to make a profit or spread fear. And it's about activism, standing up for justice, for the environment, for the well-being of all, not just a privileged few.
And magical activism too. I know that might sound a bit out there, but honestly, it's just about using intention, ritual, and storytelling to focus collective energy on creating change. It's about bringing people together, setting a shared vision, and then taking action, whether that's through art, protest, or just being kind in your daily life. It's powerful stuff.
It really is. And it's not about perfection. As we've seen in previous episodes, the journey is messy. There are setbacks, disagreements, and doubts. But the key is to keep coming back to the vision, to keep choosing unity, compassion, and shared purpose, even when it's hard. That's how real change happens.
And it's not just about changing the world out there. It starts with us, questioning our own beliefs, listening to our own intuition, and being willing to grow. When we do that, we inspire others to do the same. It's like a ripple effect. One person wakes up and suddenly a whole community starts to shift.
That's the legacy of the Ravenbrook tradition, isn't it? It's not about dogma or hierarchy. It's about empowering each person to become a leader in their own right, to live with integrity, to act with compassion, and to build bridges wherever they go. If we can do that, even in small ways, we're already awakening beyond fear.
Couldn't have said it better myself, Eric. So, as we wrap up, I just want to say, wherever you are on your journey, keep questioning, keep listening, and keep choosing love over fear. That's how we build the world we want to live in.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us today, Ruby, and thank you to everyone listening. We'll be back soon with more stories, more questions,